Common Sense is a deep analysis to the global socio-economic issues from the point of view of real people on real time. From the Sunshine State, this is Common Sense with Lex Marshall and JT.
Welcome to one more episode of Common Sense. I am your host, Lex Marshall, and right there is JT. Hello, JT.
Yeah. Good morning, guys.
And today, one of my favorite guests is back. He was born and raised in Florida. He studied at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. Give it up for Jordan Cooper. Hey, everybody.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate that I'm one of your favorite guests so far.
You really were born? I mean, in Fort Lauderdale.
No, I was born in Fort Myers. I studied at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale. I also studied at Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota.
Oh, fancy.
Fancy dude. All right, it's been a while, actually, I have to say that. It's been a while since I was reading Michio Kaku. Have you ever heard about Michio Kaku? It's an American-Japanese scientist, physicist, and he wrote a book, The Future of the Mind. I was reading it the other day and caught my attention because this guy is one of the best scientists out there right now. And on the post, they were talking about the Higgs Boson, and probably you guys ever hear about that term. But I'm gonna play a little bit about the thing he was talking about on CNN, and let's play this part of the interview.
The Higgs boson.
Right.
So explain the Higgs and the boson both.
Okay, we're celebrating the fact that we have found a new particle never seen before in Mother Nature by slamming two beams of proton at trillions of electron volts. And this particle, we think, was, in fact, a particle like this, was the fuse that set off the explosion which created the universe. So that everything we see around us, the galaxies, the planets, the Earth, life itself, is a byproduct of an explosion which was set off by a Higgs-like particle. We think that originally the universe was a gas of particles with no mass at all. Think of a crystal. Beautiful crystal, totally symmetrical, but useless. It exploded. And the shattering of this crystal gave us all the masses of the particles today. The electron, the proton, the neutron, the atom. Why do we have a nucleus? Why do we have a proton? Because they have masses. So the explosion of the particle broke the original perfect symmetry of this crystal, giving us the broken world we see today of planets, stars, galaxies, you, me, even love. All of it from this explosion triggered by a Higgs-like particle.
Okay, it's still very complex, but I know that you often break out into the sociological implications of science as well. This is the beginning of a very, very big conversation, isn't it? This isn't just science. This is how science may actually disprove religion, because you said you cringe when you hear God particle. Is that where we may be headed with this?
Even more than that. Realize that the Higgs boson takes us to the instant of creation itself, and we can run the videotape before the Big Bang. We can talk about the universe before the creation of the universe itself. If our universe is a soap bubble of some sort and it's expanding, there could be other soap bubbles out there, other universes. And so this is where the next step beyond the Large Hadron Collider comes in. We're going to look for evidences of a pre-Big Bang universe, perhaps the existence of other universes. And then, of course, we have the question that everyone asks me, is Elvis Presley still alive in another parallel universe?
Is he?
Maybe. You can't rule it out.
Come on, we're going there? Really?
We're going into areas that take us before the instant of Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. We're talking about going before the beginning itself. I tell you, this is deep. This is really deep. It has philosophical, theological implications as we talk about a universe, a parallel universe, other universes out there coexisting with ours. And the Large Hadron Collider, this gigantic machine in Geneva, is the key to perhaps proving the existence of these other dimensions.
All right, and that's what the Higgs boson is. Just not to mention that it was this back in the 1960s. There was this scientist called Peter Higgs. Who came up with the theory. Back then we didn't have the technology to actually do these kind of experiments, and Peter Higgs came up with the theory that there is a certain type of energy that holds everything together. Without the Higgs boson, we just wouldn't exist. What are your thoughts, Mr. Cooper?
My perspective on religion and science, I'm an atheist, so I believe only in science and what we can prove, the abstract. I'm not in favor of supernatural or personifying these abstract concepts, trying to say that it's a conscious being similar to a human consciousness that's constructing all of these things. I think it just sort of is. And perhaps I'm open to the idea of a consciousness being involved, but I don't think it's anything like a human consciousness. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so much time without us existing. And we're going to continue to change with artificial intelligence. And so this is a very small segment of the universe's history, and why would the creation be anything like us whatsoever?
JT?
Well, this is interesting, and I think it's the first time I would talk about it, and I'm very skeptical about what to say because I think it bore many things. I like the optimistic view of Professor Kaku, and I like it very much what he's saying, because he thinks the humanity is going to change, and it's going to change for good. But what we really see, is not. The human being, it's just sometimes not changing. And if it changes, sometimes it's scared. And that what it frightens me. But back in the theory, okay, so we made out of atoms. And he explained it many times. He says there is nothing, and does with the words, and he explained it more, technically. But we're empty. There is nothing between electrons, protons, in the middle. We created out of nothing, and this particle, in fact, is trying to prove that it was start. There is that it would explode, that it can, create the Big Bang. That's what we can see if it really creates, but we don't know yet. They don't know yet. They don't even.
That's right. Like the Higgs boson hasn't been discovered yet. It's just an experiment on the collider. On the other side of the world in Switzerland, they have this humongous machine that they run all kinds of experiments. And what they did was they collide a bunch of protons in billions of volts or electrons, and they made like a microscopic Big Bang, and they broke these atoms or these subatoms particles into pieces. When they put that puzzle together, they identify most of all the particles except one. So that's a particle, the unknown particle. That's what they call the Higgs boson may exist, because what they identified was all the particles in but one. And Michio Kaku is a professor, and he's got a really good background. I mean, he comes from Harvard. He went to University of California. He's the author of the book The Future of the Mind, which actually is pretty interesting, because the last time I heard him talking was back in University of California. They will read thoughts on animals and record those thoughts, and then replay those thoughts and put them back into the animal's brain. That's pretty freaking interesting. Michio Kaku is by far one of the best scientists that we have right now, after Stephen Hopkins, even Albert Einstein. I mean, he's alive. That dude is walking among us. And he got a little controversy, when he said that Higgs boson was the particle of God. I know Cooper is no big fan of religion, And as he stated,
I think in the clip we just heard him say that he doesn't like that term, the God particle, right?
Right, but he also said like this kind of the experiments and whatever they're discovering it has implications, like theological implications.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of? He seems to think it's antagonistic towards.
No, I don't think it's antagonistic. I think he's beyond that. I mean, what I think is and this is what I think also. I think religion can be proved scientifically. If religion exists, when I talk about religion,
but which one?
Exactly, and that's I'm gonna make my point here. When I'm talking about religion, I think the existence of God can be proved.
A conscious God.
A conscious God can be proved. Not can't, can be proved. And I tell you why. Everything that is written in the Bible, we don't understand a bunch of things. You can't talk about the Bible. The Bible is a complex book that you have to understand. And as in any other book, if you don't understand the Bible, then you can really talk about the Bible. Put it to you this way. You can read any book and try to understand it, but if you don't understand, you can't really talk about the book. You follow me? Like if you read just parts of the book, any book, you read just parts of it, you don't really have an opinion. Because you never read it. You never read the whole thing. So it's the same like...
Yeah, but can you have an opinion about the Quran without reading the whole thing?
No, and that's why I never talk about the Quran, because, I haven't read it yet,
So...
it's the same thing with, I never read, like, Don Quixote, because, I read parts of it, but not all of it.
I think you can have an opinion about the claims that people make after reading the book and after believing it. So I can make commentary on the idea that a religious person would bring to the table, in isolation. I don't think I need to. I don't think I need to be a theologian to comment on it.
But this is a discussion been for centuries, since the ancient Greek. They want to explain, the phenomena that was happening around them, and even the Greeks, they have their own gods, and they have their own what they call a superior being, and through generations, about all these centuries, people believe in something. And even in science, people do believe in science. And I do believe in science too, because otherwise, every time I go to the doctor and they gave me some kind of medicine, it was based on science. People got to do something for cure or problems, And but to prove God, it's another league. And try to separate the believing from the fact that there is something that can create, another human being. For example, or another universe, it's miles away.
I think like we still on diapers on this subject. I really think that it needs, we need more than the Higgs boson to state that God exists. I agree with that.
But what exactly about the Higgs boson supports the theory for God? I'm not exactly sure.
I'm gonna put it to you this way: the Higgs boson is like energy type thing, right? It has no mass. That's what the theory states. The Higgs boson is a type energy that has no mass, but it keeps everything together. Without the Higgs boson, we wouldn't exist.
Because it's currently invisible.
Right, and I'm gonna play Genesis. Actually, Mr. Kaku refers to this part of the Bible, and I want to play for you guys. Just for a little background here.
The Book of Genesis, Chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
All right there. When the Bible says, "Let it be light," and actually puts it in quotations, "Let it be light," that's referring to the energy type thing that Professor Michio Kaku is talking about. That part of the Bible where it says, "Let it be," is a command from God. And that's how you can link that command into the Higgs boson. It's a command, it's a voice, it's an order that has no mass, it has no physical body, but it's pure energy.
So you think that the Bible is making a theory, and then this confirms that theory that there was an origin?
I think so.
Yeah, but
what, like I said,
but there's two claims. Let's separate the claim of there was an origin. Sure, I can agree with that. But then there's another part of that, which is that there was a conscious being who ordered it, who commanded it. And as far as the Higgs boson, I think that shows that it does not show that someone ordered it. It shows that there was an origin. And the claim of the Bible is that someone did it, a human, like a conscious thing, where I'm saying, it's just a thing. It's just a thing that happened.
Well,
it doesn't mean that someone did it. It just means that it happened. I can agree with the Bible and that there was an origin. That's it. That's all there really is.
I know. The really interesting part here is like the command, on the Bible. It says, and God said, "Let it be light." I first of all, like JT said, I like to separate, religion and whatever I believe, because I don't think I'm a religious person, to be honest with you guys. I do believe in a God type thing, because when I look at the skies, when I look the earth, the universe, for myself, I'm talking about for myself. I don't think it just happens all of a sudden. I think there is a God type, behind everything, that is working, like on how to create things. I just don't believe, we humans and the whole world is like so complex. I mean, you go into like DNA, you go into how humans are built. The design. Look at the plants. Look at the microorganism. Insects. They have a purpose. And someone designed all that stuff. I don't think everything happened all of a sudden, and I do like to separate religion and science, but what Michio Kaku says that can be the beginning of like a mixture of religion and science. This could be the beginning. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that definitely is something we can grab and say, this is how everything started. We're still in diapers, and I don't know how far it's going to get. I mean, the experiment happened in 2012. We haven't heard anything since then.
It's too much money involved.
Okay, so I want to say religion and science have coexisted throughout human existence, right? So in abstract forms, it started with little idols or art, right? Art and religion grew up together. So you have, hand paintings or cave paintings, and you have little carvings and etchings and sculptures, and all these are attempts at explaining things that we don't understand. And this is just a continuation of that. Okay, we have a particle that we don't understand, so that must be where God is. But it keeps receding into smaller and smaller. I mean, we're having to take it down to we've taken it down to a particle. That's how small an area we have
So
not
we
being
narrow
able
it down to
explain
a
it with
particle.
science.
I know.
But before
I
it was
understand.
like,
Yeah.
oh, there's lightning. That
Yeah,
must be God.
it must be
now
God,
we
you
know
know.
that it's not.
Well, I have a question for Cooper. And for example, mythology has been existed for years. And
That's
what
the
are
beginning.
what are the atheists?
As soon as we have language, that
All right, but what are the atheists? Because I'm sorry, I believe I'm ignorant in this part, so I want to that I want to.
But that's
enlightenment
the
in this
purpose.
kind of thing.
That's the purpose of the whole thing. Like from your experience, what do you think?
We're happy
you
to have you here.
you don't need to be a scientist.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a guy from Harvard. From your experience, like just like Cooper, his experience has been he's been atheist for the whole life.
That's my point.
What's your experience? What do you think about it?
Okay, that's my point, and that's what I want to ask you this question. As a theist, what do you think about mythology? What about you think the ancient gods? For Greeks, for Romans, for Sumerians, for Babylonians, for Romans. What is the experience that the atheists explain? How do the people they believe in this mythology and these gods? And Professor Kaku says we discovered the ribosome, in a human being. So people one part.
Sorry, the what in the human?
The
being?
ribosome. Where we create our genes. We're talking about genes. Marshall was talking about genes. So the ribosome. That's what the chromosomes. The ribosome.
Chromosome.
Okay. So Professor Kaku says we have this ribosome and we put him, in a woman's womb, and we have a child. We have a baby that I consume, that is is a living creature, is a human being. So
Sure.
how the atheists put in this
Atheists.
part how do they don't believe in God put in this part? How do they come together? So for one part, there is God's, mythology, and those guys that try to explain how we get here, and how we explain that the ribosome become a child.
So what's science's explanation for us?
Okay.
Is that the question, or like what? How does science explain the complexity of human
Life.
existence and life? Right.
I think I can follow JT on this. How do an atheist people, or how an atheist person defines the existence of life itself?
I think we're a byproduct of all of these abstractions, and it doesn't happen very often, as we can see in the universe. But it happens. Just like water. Just
right.
It's
so
just another expression.
So you think like the life? You think like life itself happened just because all of the sudden?
No, it's not all of it. Are we talking about the Big Bang, or are we talking about life?
We can take it. We can take it from the Big Bang.
So you have the Big Bang, and you have an extremely long period of time in which life doesn't exist.
So let me ask you this:
What new?
Yeah, what triggered the Big Bang?
I mean, isn't he talking about it's abstract? I don't know. It's math. I don't know.
But for scientists,
all right.
Okay, I'll tell you
I think
this.
this is a good idea to take it into the weird things that I'm open to, because I'm not closed to weird things. Right?
But listen, I want to ask you.
We could get into simulation theory, because I'm totally open to that.
Right. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you.
I don't know.
In order to have a Big Bang, or in order to have an explosion, we need mass, right?
Sure. So why does it exist?
Okay. So before the Big Bang was nothing.
Right.
So
how do you explain nothing and mass?
How can nothing produce explosion?
I don't know.
We're energy.
Right.
I don't know. That's exactly
right.
I wouldn't explain it.
But that's exactly what But I know. But that's exactly what the Higgs Boson trying to explain.
Sure.
Yeah,
and I'm all for science continuing to explain it.
Right. Before the Big Bang, it was this energy that had no mass. That energy produced a Big Bang. And the Big Bang, all those particles, just like the Professor Kaku said, all these particles from the explosion, all those broken parts from the crystal are floating around, and they become planets in us. So without the Higgs boson, we
So I'm
wouldn't
made
exist.
made out of crystal or plastic or something like
Yeah,
that.
over a long period of time. Yeah,
Right.
Well,
So-
plastic. No.
So now, like, and I agree, and I totally agree what you say. Like things that we cannot explain. I mean, we narrow it down to a particle, to a subatomic particle that we
Yeah.
can explain, and we think is
come
a
a long
God.
way.
You know, is God. You know, I
Well,
mean, we like
So the unexplained is God.
the unexplained is God, and I totally agree
But
with
I
you.
don't think that's a characteristic of it. I think that's our description. That's our description, not the universe's description. The universe doesn't have a description. The universe is just
Right.
a bunch of nonsense that isn't conscious of itself.
But how do you explain your conscious?
My consciousness, it's like a computer. It's just a series of particles arranged in a very complex system.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this. We know mass produces mass, right? I agree. We got to find a common ground here.
Okay, sure.
Mass can be transformed into mass. So transform mass into another type of mass, we need energy, right?
Sure.
Okay. Mass can produce or can transform into energy, but how can you say that mass produces a conscious type living thing?
How can I say that we're built from such a small element?
Yes, like mass produce, in the transformation of mass, energy releases.
So you have
right?
something so simple,
Right.
just particles. You have
say,
building blocks,
right.
and how does that end up with us?
Right, like let's say like you burn something, you burn a piece of paper. So you have a piece of paper, it's a mass, right?
Okay.
And in the combustion, you transform a mass into another mass, release the energy, which is the fire.
So it's just the particles
Right.
rearranging itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with that. So, because we're talking about a piece of paper that is burning, right?
Right.
Okay. In the human being, you have, the body, which is the mass. You have the brain, your physical being. But how can you describe, that physical being has a conscious?
All right. Let me bring in some comparisons
okay.
with computer science, video games. So the complexity of a video game, right? You have physics, you have light, you have artificial intelligence, basic artificial intelligence that are interacting with the player. They walk around, you shoot at them, and they respond, and you talk to characters, and the characters don't really know what they're doing. They're just playing pre-recorded audio and so forth. But all of that is built off of zeros and ones, and you can break it down into code. And you have computer scientists that are building it. You have programmers that are building it. And it starts with zeros and ones, and then they build languages out of the zeros and ones, and then it goes on in complexity from there. So you have very abstract building blocks that just continue to become. So you have all these layers of abstraction. I think it's the same thing.
I think, but as a human beings, we are more complex than that because.
But yeah, like hold on a second.
Complex, yeah.
Yeah, but those video games,
will
like
keep getting more
the characters on the video game, they have no conscience.
Yeah.
That's my point. That's my point because
they have responses in the same way that something very abstract like
it needs an input. They need an input.
No, you can run simulations without humans interacting with it.
Simulations, but they brain program it.
So you're saying because you need a human to build it, and so the same way that
yeah, like you're talking about like these engineers that are working behind the scenes, right? You stated there is like a bunch of engineers that are working behind the scenes.
Okay.
So
but that's
would it be like will those engineers will take the place of God
for
humans, right?
For simulation, sure. So let's get into simulation theory, because I think simulation theory is probably my closest approach to religion that you guys could probably relate with. Okay, but it's coming from like a science background.
Okay.
Yeah. So I I think it's good to get into, right?
It's okay.
So-
Hold on before you proceed. And I believe in science too. That, like I said before, and I stated before, and I will say it again. I believe in science, and I believe in all this material. It works for me, and I work with them, and that's fine. The problem is when it comes to a normal problem for me, from a human being, how I can, have the conscience to work on it without, explain the things that happened before or how I get there. I think this is more emotionally than just explain particles or how they've been built, because you can explain how this computer has been built, but you cannot explain my mind or your mind for itself. This is more complex than that. That's my point.
It's more complex, but I mean, the universe is more complex than our current technology.
Here is another thing. We were talking about the Higgs boson, and there is another thing that, on that experiment they discover the antimatter.
Sure, and then another force that we currently cannot identify.
Right, but would it be like the antimatter would be like something evil?
I mean, it sounds menacing. Sure, that's got a menacing name.
Because the antimatter eats matter, right?
Right.
It
like
devours.
Is a black hole antimatter or no?
Some sort.
I don't think so.
I think it is
maybe.
some sort of the center is an antimatter. Like everything gets absorbed and then it disappears.
I mean, I don't know.
As far as
this is my just not being very.
I don't think.
Maybe it's just another dimension that another dimension that's crossing over into.
Okay. For you too. Let's say, like I say, we haven't discovered the Higgs boson. Okay, but does this experiments approves or disproves the existence of God?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, God's already been disproven.
What about you, JT?
I don't think. I think the humankind. Humankind. It's. I was thinking, and I was relating many of my thoughts, to try to put it this way. Humankind, it will try to prevail against any odds, against nature, against science, against ourselves. And if for some reason this Higgs boson is going to prove that it's not God, the people that is still worshiping something else, and people it will be worshiping maybe the particle. They want to try to grab the particle and put it in some kind of high ground, and they want to worship him. I believe that is going to be possible, and because, like I stated before, like I told him, there are some things that you cannot explain scientifically. For example, you can explain how you broke up with your girlfriend, but you cannot explain how do you really feel. You cannot put it in math, and even if you do. Even if you do, it doesn't get you a good result. You just know the facts, but it doesn't going to take your girlfriend back, because you have to make some changes. So, as a human being, as it grows, you're gonna be more worried about raising your children's, find a nice wife, a pretty one, blue eyes, and have children. And what about if your wife believe in God? What will you do? How are you going to explain to that and say, "Oh no, you're just part of the universe"? You're not going to say that.
What happened if your wife and your future wife believes in God and you don't? Would it be like a barrier that you have to break?
So you're saying that's a good question. Let's say
my wife is very skeptical on religion. I mean, she's a religious, but she's just religious. She doesn't believe on the God part.
Go ahead.
Really, she is a religious person, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think she believes in God.
Right.
You're like,
she's spiritual. I would say she's spiritual, right?
No, actually, she's nothing.
No, I think
non-spiritual.
I think she's agnostic. I think Shakespeare agnostic. The agnostic people, they believe in something and they do something, but they want to prove.
But this is what she does. Like she follows like she's Catholic. She was raised Catholic. She follows all the Catholic rules. Like go to church. And
she believes in ethics.
Right, and go to church. You have to do the first communion. You have to do, you have to pray.
Rituals.
Right, all the rituals. Exactly. Yeah.
Rituals.
She does all the rituals, but when we talk about religion and how God created the universe, whatever, and she's like, no, I don't.
I can get on board with that.
I don't think she's not involved in the theology because it's more practical to do the religion as you look than you learn, because it's very complex. The religion is very complex. If we talk about dogmas and laws and books, it's very boring.
I think religion has. There's a reason it existed. It has its uses.
Well, we have to separate, right?
Culture and
but
history and technology.
We have to separate
major presence.
Religion and spirituality.
Sure.
Because religion was created by man in a form of the bad conscious.
What do you mean?
Okay. If a person does something bad, then they feel guilty. There's a guilt.
Sure.
Right. They create religion just to somehow be released from that guilt. That's how religion got created,
I think
that's exactly what Catholics, those really hardcore Catholics,
that's what they have social organization,
right?
Which benefits humans.
But that's different.
Right. But
builds agriculture, makes you able to trade.
What I'm trying to explain is like, if a person does something bad, then they go to church, they listen to the priest. They actually go into confession and say, and the person says, "Oh, I've done this and that." That priest says, "Okay, you have to do this," and they feel they've been released for the bad that they've done.
Yeah, authority feels good,
right? And it feels
good.
That's religion. I don't believe in religion. I don't believe on that part. My beliefs are like the existence of God, and that's it.
Sure.
I believe that is something that's a creator behind everything. That's what I believe. I don't believe in religion. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not a religious person.
You don't think the priests are speaking with God?
No.
Yeah.
Marshall is a deist people. Deist people is? There are people that believe in God or supreme being, but it isn't religion. Doesn't believe in religion.
Wait, are you talking about agnostics or what?
No. Deist.
Oh, deist. Yeah.
Deist.
Yeah.
Deist people believe in God, but they're not religious, so they can support the theory.
I'm good with deists. A lot of scientists are deists.
So we are triangle over here. So these people, Marshall is deist, you're a theist, and I'm a believer.
Would you identify yourself as a deist?
I'm a believer.
No.
Maybe.
You have to look more in. You'll have to look more into it.
Yeah.
And what are you?
Oh no, I'm a believer. I'm believing God, and when I have time, I practice my religion. What I think that religion be for me?
Christian?
Yeah, I'm a Christian, of course, and my concern is about not what people think about if people believe in God or not, because I don't know how the microwave works, but I'm not using it. So I don't know how exactly God works, but I using it.
Right.
Right?
And I'm like the positive of my wife, beliefs. Like she believes in the rituals. I don't. I believe that, there is
interesting.
a God.
You're kind of opposite.
Right. Like I believe there is a God and everything was created by God, and
this is a good question that I ask people, which is, do you think there's a conscious being that can read your thoughts?
Nah.
You don't think he knows what you're thinking?
You can interpret.
Right, but no human can read my thoughts.
Yeah, no human, but we're talking about the thing that started the universe.
Right.
I'm agreeing with that.
He knows your thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. Yeah.
So that's a big line that I think.
Yeah, because if he was if he was the creator of me, he holds in his hand his my mental.
What if he didn't create you and he just created all those particles and then you ended up being there?
No, because every person DNA is different, so it's gotta be something unique on that person. in all the living creatures,
But
my DNA
I
won't
see
be the same thing.
uniqueness as being a point against God, though, because
what I'm trying to say is God created every single person. God, designed every single person uniquely. There's no other Cooper just like you. Might be
what's the point of having so many sperm if he's already made a decision as to which one is going to win? Why does that race have to exist?
Okay, all right, but if you look to the microscope, every particle, they look the same, right?
Right.
They look the same.
Sure.
And some of them they are positive, some of them they are negative. But when they come together, they form different person, different materia.
Sure.
So we are different, right? Some people are black, some people are white, some are Hispanics, some are Asians. We're different. Human beings.
You can explain all these things.
They made different. Okay, and that's perfect. That's good. I think that's the beauty of believing in God. I think that's the beauty of believing in God. That He made.
It's a comfort to explain things that we don't understand.
But that's what I call religion. And just to follow, the previous comment on, even on like twins. They came from the same, egg.
What was that?
The twins, like a twin brother.
Sure, yeah.
They came from the same egg.
Sure, yeah, it's a split.
Right. And, yeah, they're different. The DNA is different.
I don't. You sure about that?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're telling, millions of sperms, goes to hunting, I think that's the way we can do it, because especially if it's like you have a magazine in your in your belt, only 5 bullets. That's the only chance you got to reproduce yourself.
Okay, so if there are only 5 sperm,
it's only
what would you do when you
five little
count.
things going there? Like
what would you do if you run out of your bullets, bro?
Okay, Cooper. You only have 5 shots.
and you're probably not going to have
and
kids.
and probably when you were 16 years old, you spend a lot.
You only have 5 bullets, so you better use them or lose them.
I mean, that's not the usual. So what's the question? What if that happens?
I don't know what the fucking question
But it would
is.
be funny.
No, okay. We're gonna go. We're gonna go people reactions, and I got pretty good interesting reactions here. Colin Jenningson said, Nikola Tesla say, and quote, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations." End quote.
Okay.
I mean, do you really our technology is still baby technology towards, finding out.
It's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
It's getting better.
It's getting better, but I think we're still babies on that subject.
I mean, when we're fully formed, we're going to be robots in space.
And that's why I agree with you. Anything that we don't know, we just simply call, that is act of God.
Yeah, and it keeps changing all the time.
Right,
So
and
I
totally
don't see
agree.
that as a strong argument that it.
Okay, Professor Kaku says, yes, there will be changes, for the next centuries, even for 2057. That's what he says. There's going to be changes. There are going to be robots. There are going to be androids. There's going to be
AIs.
artificial intelligence. But he was explaining.
How do you explain that?
Okay, hold on. He was explaining this. For example, a dog. Think us as a dog. If you teach your dog to do something, he's going to do it as a dog, right?
Okay.
Okay, so he looks at you or me, I'm his owner, and he thinks I'm a dog too. That's the mentality of the dog.
Sure.
And it's been proof.
Sure.
Okay, so we think as a human beings.
That's a good point.
The problem with the intelligence, the future intelligence, is going to be they're going to have our minds. Right?
Not necessarily.
No, they do. They
Some
have
of them
to.
might.
No,
They
they
don't
have to.
Why?
They have to. Why? Because we have the reproduction. And if we stop to reproduce, we start to having babies, we stop to having babies, how are the androids going to, reproduce? But they're going to have our mind.
They can just copy themselves. Because
All right.
digital files.
Okay,
this is pretty interesting.
But still, they're going to still have
But
a
there's
human mind in
Not
it.
necessarily. Some of them might. it's really difficult to do that. We have robots right now that have minds similar
But
to
they still-
Because
insects,
somebody
like
taught him.
insects.
Somebody programmed too, but they have no conscience though.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be human-like. I mean, something that flies and only has sensors to, I mean, like a fly, right? Insect fly, right? Very, very simple brain to replicate compared to a human. Human brains are way more complicated. So
Yeah, way more. And
so
I
we
and I
can
think
get there eventually. I think we will get there eventually, but I don't think all of them. I mean, we have some right now that aren't.
Okay,
Like us.
Nano, and this is just to back up some of the stuff that JT said. Nano says, God is not human. God is all. That is, and it never was. No human terms can describe God, for it's very complex.
well,
So,
I cannot
like,
explain
what-
my
what-
ears because
right.
I don't.
It's just like JT said, the dog thinks that we're dogs,
Okay.
because that's how the dog brain works. We try to explain God in human terms.
Yes, that's what I was going over earlier. It's like,
God is
okay,
not
you have
human.
a bunch of abstract things and you want to relate to it. And so you assign human, you're giving it, you're personifying it.
Okay.
Same way that a dog is like, well, let me relate to it. It's just a simple way of relating to something that's
right,
different
but
or more complex.
I still believe that it has to be some kind of link between God and us.
Why?
I mean-
Because it makes you feel good.
No, that's religion. Like I said, I hate religions. I hate people with religion.
Yeah, but this is an emotional decision for you to decide you want it to be that way.
Right. But
Or science doesn't care what we want. It doesn't care.
no, but it explains things
It explains things in human terms.
in human terms.
in human terms, that's the point.
Sure.
that at some point,
It doesn't mean it's true, though.
what the human terms or
Yeah.
science.
Science is real, yeah,
Uh-huh.
but that doesn't mean that our personification is real.
Well, the science can explain some other big problems in this world, like sickness and some kind of viruses. They see them, they study them. For example, cancer. They cannot isolate the cancer. They try many times, but they cannot explain how they produce. And sometimes they see, this is the root of the cancer, but they don't know how.
Yeah, but they'll get there, though.
Cure it.
They'll get there.
Christopher Williams says, whether the existence of God can be proved or disproved, humans are not ready to entertain themselves, nor less to find what to do with these findings, like the Higgs particle and all that stuff.
They don't know what to do in
humans
response to it.
humans
It's
can
still new.
Humans can entertain themselves. Then how can they understand something like so complex than that?
Gravity's pretty complex and took us a long time to figure out how it works.
Right.
But we did.
We did, but
this is like only a couple of years ago that we even found out it exists. I mean,
Well,
we're upset with ourselves in 3 years. We can't figure it out. 6 years.
What
or whatever
what
it
I
was.
say, this is
It'll
what I
take
say.
time.
There is have to be a connection between God and science. I mean,
Why?
because there's have to be. I mean,
Why?
That's what I believe.
Sure.
There's have to be a connection for me. I mean, I'm not talking about myself.
Sure.
Maybe for you, don't have to be. But
Don't
for me,
need it.
there is have to be a connection between science and God. Now how to prove? I can. It's just a belief that I have.
Yeah, you want to believe. You want to believe it.
I want to believe that it's have to be a connection. I cannot prove it.
We could get into, if you want, we could get into the emotional response to atheism, because I'll totally, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, you can find comfort in it, but it's a much different approach than religion. Because you have so many people in religion that have been doing it for a long time, they can say, yeah, it feels good. Let me explain. Where atheism, you're going against society, and you gotta figure out how to deal with the fact that you don't believe in the afterlife. You don't believe in all these comforts.
I think being atheist is just like being agnostic or being religious. Religious people still gotta go against society.
No, that's different.
It's the majority.
It's different because I think believe like Cooper said, atheists they don't believe, so they don't try to prove anything. They just want the facts, right?
Well, you try to prove science. You try to
Yeah,
figure this stuff out.
but the science prove itself because as you discover, you prove it.
You gotta work pretty hard.
You all right, but you make many tests and they prove it.
Sure.
But religion is about control. They don't try to prove anything. You just try to control. That's what I understand.
That's what I don't like.
That
Religion.
doesn't sound good. Yeah.
That's
exactly what I don't like religion.
So why do we got to do it?
And that scares me. And that scares me. But I don't think God has this vision, either control or proof. It's just like, okay, I'm the superior being and do what you please, but I'm still here.
So right. So I think you guys are in the pursuit of ethics and philosophy and feeling good about treating other people well and all those things, and I'm totally in favor of those things. I don't think we need to. I'm not contesting philosophy and ethics. I think it's great to continue to treat people well.
Right, but okay, this is the last thing. Before we wrap it up, what I do believe is, for me, there's got to be a connection between science and the systems of God. I'm not saying religion, because just like JT said, I think religion is the form for people to control. Why I do believe that it has to be a link between God and science, because simply math do not produce conscious. It doesn't produce
evolution. Evolution, baby. I believe in it.
Because you can't explain that yet.
Yeah, you can.
No, how? Everything that men create, has no conscious.
Yeah, but we'll get there.
My dog doesn't have conscious.
Until we get there, then we'll talk.
Yeah. Yeah, because that'll be another thing. Eventually, we're saying, we have this thing we can't identify. That's going to challenge
AI,
everything. Imagine an AI showing up and saying,
even AI,
you guys are idiots. There's no God.
There's no conscious. There is no like a feeling. That. There's nothing there, It's just, a machine can take decisions, yes or no, and that's it.
Yeah, but what if you can't?
There's no emotions.
What if you can't tell the difference? What if you can't? What if there's?
Okay. Let me explain. Okay, let me ask you this: you think at one point AIs will love somebody, fall in love with people?
I think that when you break down human emotions, when you break it down, it'll be as uncomfortable.
I don't think we'll never get there.
Thinking about an AI doing it, I think you can't. Because when we look at each other, it's the same problem where it's like, okay, are you conscious or are you just like a series of responses?
Well,
and it's the same.
When you are all alone in some bar, you see this hot chick. You don't think in mathematics. You don't think in physics. You only think, in the gravitational pull, so, the dress fall off the floor.
Right.
So.
Well, that's how our brains work.
But that's human.
Sure.
So what do you think the android is going to say? Oh, you're just beautiful. Let's reproduce.
Depends on how you. Depends on how you program it. Depends on whether it has a body.
No, your first thought is going to be, oh, what about if it is my love of my life? What about if it's going to have honeymoon in Hawaii?
It's different.
You start imagining, her legs or whatever,
sure,
and she got spots or whatever.
And you can program it.
That's human beings.
Yeah, exactly.
We cannot replicate that.
Exactly.
You can replicate
Grouper,
that.
Someone has to program.
But it's going to be fake.
Sure, yeah.
I mean,
it'll take time, but
someone
we can do it.
programmed us.
I don't think anybody's going to fall in love with a microwave. You fall in love with somebody that you care, that you want to be
again,
with.
Take it back to how long we weren't here.
Right. And
so why would he take that long? If we're the goal, why would he take that long? And if he programmed us like, okay, this is how a human works.
Okay.
Why were there dinosaurs for so long without us? Was he just like, all right, let me test out this dinosaur.
Okay. I think I got a point in this. I want to end it with this because this is going out of balance for me.
On the Bible verse that I play, he explains that.
Okay, no. Let's not talk about the Bible.
Before we wrap it up, let's hear JT.
Let's not talk about Bible. Let's not talk about theories. Let's talk about Professor Kaku. It's just about human beings, drinking coffee on a table and talking about this. Okay, what I think God made for us is to have a purpose in life. Because even if you're a theist, you try to pursue something for you, for yourself in the future. You don't try to replicate yourself as a human being in an android. You try to make a family, which we've made our families.
I'm not going to have kids.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But that's what the resume God wants for us. To have a life, to have a purpose in life, and teach them. Because at the end, when they bury us, it's going to say, oh, JT did that. Oh, this is my grandfather, Cooper, who made this great building for me. That's what the people are going to say. They're not going to say, oh, this was the particle that was found, in South Florida, and they sprung, and now I have a children. No, it's not going to say that. Right?
My granddad was a particle.
No, I think what JT is like, let's say, like, you have to live, you have to pursue something. I don't know what your goals are.
Sure, I mean, that's a survival drive.
And that's inside your heart. It doesn't matter if God put it or
our cells
not.
replicate.
Even if you don't know how to explain it, it's in there. It's in there. You have to look for it.
I can explain it. It's part of the brain.
All right, guys, this is our show.
That's so good.
That's all for your show. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Jay Cooper. And remember to check us out on Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. This has been Common Sense.